Well, one of the excuses that you used to avoid completing your will has disappeared. Hi, Nancy Beauvair here, Certified Executor Advisor and the founder of NEXsteps. So I bet you're wondering what that one reason is. Well, getting witnesses all together in one place at one time can become a bit of an obstacle. During COVID, rules were relaxed in all of the jurisdictions because we weren't allowed to meet in person. And as a result, there had to be some kind of a solution to allow certain legal processes to continue. So during the period of the pandemic, every jurisdiction allowed some kind of a remote signing for legal documents. Most of the jurisdictions allowed those laws to lapse once the pandemic was over. However, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and Quebec are a little bit different. In those jurisdictions, you can have a will signed remotely, although there are some differences in how that occurs. In Alberta, for instance, you have to have the lawyer who actually drafted the will present in the video conference. So the process would be that you would have your witness at your end for the video chat, and the lawyer will have the witness at their end for the video chat, and then everybody signs the document in wet ink. So the finished document is going to look a little bit different. It's going to actually be two wills with two parties signing on both ends, but it does form a legal document. Make sure that you're doing it correctly. Make sure that you check with the lawyer who has drafted your will. Ontario is a little bit different. You still need a lawyer or a paralegal who is licensed in Ontario to be that other witness. However, they don't necessarily have to be that lawyer who drafted your will. Saskatchewan is a bit different again. You do need a lawyer as the other witness, but the original will actually travels. So there will be the witnesses on both ends. You sign in wet ink. Then that document travels to the other party and you witness again in wet ink. Quebec is a little bit different. But then Quebec is a little bit different with a lot of things. And the reason for that is that Quebec operates under civil law as opposed to common law like the rest of the provinces and territories in Canada. In Quebec, most people opt for what is called a notarial will, and that is a document that is created by a notary. The notary has the authority under their law to decide if witnesses are required or not. And British Columbia is the outlier here. British Columbia has gone the furthest. You can genuinely sign remotely with witnesses remotely, and nobody has to be a lawyer or a paralegal in order for that will to be valid. BC also allowed for legal documents to all be able to be created and stored digitally and virtually. However, if you are doing a power of attorney document, you do require one of the parties to be a lawyer. So make sure that you are always checking in your jurisdiction to make sure that what you're doing is actually current and legal and accurate in your jurisdiction. In those areas where we haven't changed the laws, where people can do some of this stuff virtually, please make sure again to check with your authorities in your area just to see what exactly is required in order for you to get witnesses. Now, here's the thing. In most cases, if you are using a law firm, a lawyer, to draft your wills and your other legal documents, they generally will provide the witnesses anyway. They've got their staff there who will come in and act as witnesses for those signings. You know, there's different rules around who can witness. So that's a big step forward. In a lot of ways, I know that many people, including myself, did not like those restrictions that happened during the pandemic. But some good things did come from it. The ability for some financial institutions and legal institutions to allow for things to be done remotely now that had to happen during that period of time and have stuck has helped make a little bit more of a seamless process and allowed people more flexibility in order to do the things that they should be doing. But what if you're just thinking about preparing your will? Well, I've got a tool called the Will Blueprint. It will walk you through everything that you should be considering when you are drafting your will. You go in and you have your meeting with the lawyer, and the lawyer either doesn't think to ask specific questions about your circumstances, or they just slip your mind until you're in that meeting. Now, I'm going to be upfront. Probably using this tool isn't going to save you legal fees because in most cases, lawyers will do a package deal. They'll give one price and they'll provide you your will and your power of attorney and your medical directive. But it's better to be prepared and have that document be accurate and reflect the realities of what your life is than for you to pass away and for your executor and your family to find out that there were huge gaps. So the Will Blueprint is over on my website. I'll put a link in the description box. And of course, I've always got an article. I'll put the link to that also in the description box. You can go over there. You can read a little bit more about how these changes may impact you where you live. Thanks very much for joining me this week. I look forward to sharing more with you next time. Bye for now.